Welcome to Profiles in Risk, and today I am recording this episode with Paul Gaglioti and Marc Hadfield of HarborAI. And actually, it was called something else before when I met Paul, but basically they're both insurtech guys. Paul and Marc, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing today?
Doing very well, Tony. How about yourself?
Awesome. And for the listeners, we are recording on both audio and video. Watch the video version for this one. It should be a good one. For the audio listeners, Paul has a gigantic pirate flag behind him. Nothing more insurance than a big pirate. And we are recording on a Friday during the coronavirus crisis. So we're all working from home, and I know that Paul is New York based, although he ran away to New Jersey for this crisis. Marc, are you also New York based?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn, Crown Heights at the moment.
Okay, so are you? I hope you're both staying safe during the current crisis, given that New York, New Jersey is kind of the, or not kind of, the epicenter right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, we're in quarantine mode at the moment.
I have been today. In fact, we just had champagne to celebrate. We are celebrating our fourth week in a row of total quarantine. We have not walked out our apartment unit door in 4 weeks. Wow. I flew back home from a canceled conference 4 weeks ago, and we have literally not left the apartment at all. We get groceries delivered. Trash hasn't been taken out. We're doing our part. So I think we've got an interesting topic today, or a combination of topics. We're going to talk about how technology can be used to save jobs within the insurtech ecosystem, the future of the insurance brokerage space, and also I want our listeners to learn what Harbor is. And we've got three interesting perspectives. As the listeners know, I'm an insurance carrier guy. So Paul, tell us a little bit about your background, because you've never worked in a carrier, right? You've always been kind of broker side. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. So, I've been a retailer for the past decade. So largely working on more E&S kind of stuff, anything I get my hands on. Started Diversified Risk in 2011, so that will be 9 years old in June. So it's been quite a wild ride there. Came together with Marc about 4 years ago. It's been almost, when we started our joint venture between his technology company and Diversified Risk to then create HarborAI. So always been on the brokerage side. Now not only are we retail, but we also are a wholesale distribution channel, in addition to having one of the first full digital insurtech MGAs.
Okay, and so Diversified was still a retail agency, not an MGA, right?
Correct. We still operate Diversified Risk as our retail brand. Okay. So it is separate from there.
And Harbor is an insurtech MGA.
Correct. HarborAI is an insurtech exchange, right? So we run an exchange model where we have, typical brokerage markets. We have a bunch of API connections in addition to an MGA platform as well.
Okay, so exchange, that makes me think of Bold Penguin. So I'll definitely want to do a compare and contrast. Sure. And Marc, if I'm not mistaken, this is your first adventure into insurance/insurtech?
Yeah, that's correct. So I've been in a couple different industries over my career, always, on the tech side, a lot of artificial intelligence. One of my first startups was actually an exchange for letters of credit, as a financial transaction, which has a lot of overlap with insurance in terms of how it works and whatnot. So in some degree, I've kind of come full circle. First startup being, letter of credit exchange. Did a lot of work in life sciences in terms of things like drug discovery using AI for that. Did some work in content publishing in AI. Then I started a company to really create a platform for AI-based automation. And that's around the time I initially met up with Paul, and it seemed like it was a really good fit for using AI automation capabilities applied to, essentially what is a very data-centric industry, insurance. And then we kind of put our heads together and went from there.
Okay, what is HarborAI?
So in my view, so Paul and I have had, as we put things together, we've taken, his ideas, my ideas, kind of melded it together. And what it's become is really an exchange, going back to that word again, where we're bringing together retailers, wholesalers, carriers, and the insured all within the same environment, so that information flows seamlessly across all those different parties. And we call it an exchange because all the commercial insurance products are in that exchange in one place. And our goal with the technology is to really match the need with the demand, and be able to connect the insureds with the right product set that they need, and use a lot of the AI technology to facilitate that, but really as a helper to bring those participants together. So there's still retail agents, there's still wholesalers, there's still carriers, there's still the insureds, but really the wheels are greased to allow those gears to all function together.
Okay, Paul, as a broker, so you've been a broker for over a decade. What got you thinking of building this?
I mean, honestly, my conversations with Marc really, sparked it. My frustration came out of just the availability in the current tech stack. At the time, I was, user of one of the big, agency management platforms, and, it was, good, it got the job done, but the functionality for me and my, role as, a young person getting in the industry just didn't make sense, right? It didn't align with that of other industries where technology was, evolving a lot faster. So when we came together to think about the tech stack, it was really thinking about what it meant to be a broker and what those workflows look like. And then when I came to Marc, I was like, look, what we need to really solve for is, the questions, right? Like, how do I, properly ask and insured the right questions? And then he took that beyond what I was thinking in my wildest dreams and developed this super slick thing that does all these different things that I could have never imagined. So, as a broker, we look at it like, the number one thing, like, our customer is the insured. Whether we're taking a submission from another agent, we want that insured to get the best user experience. So Marc, in designing that, allowed that insured's information to flow securely, of course, but in a way that, gave them a better experience. The agents did less, the carriers spent less time on the risk. So it really came through to just trying to automate workflows.
Okay, so it sounds, when you say exchange, I immediately think of kind of the big how do I put it, the big whale in that's created an exchange within commercial lines insurance, being Bold Penguin. So why didn't you just go and join Bold Penguin?
I mean, we've had some, pretty interesting conversations with the folks there. We think what they're doing is very, very cool. I think that, for us, and this was Marc's idea, so, I'll let him speak to it. The big differentiating factor with us is, a true exchange in our vision, needs to be free. It can't be charging people for that. So our platform to use is totally free. We don't charge integration fees. We don't charge maintenance fees.
Hold on. It's free for the agent to join?
Correct. Yep. We would only receive. Yep. We only receive compensation if we transact like any other wholesale broker. So if you're an agent wanting to use our platform, we don't charge you anything. You just work with us like you would work with any other wholesaler. We provide you our tech stack completely for free, and Marc can speak to the nuance of why we do that.
Yeah, it's really around making sure that as many transactions flow through the exchange as possible. So anytime when we would throw up, like if we threw up, an integration fee or a SaaS fee or things like that, all we're doing is we're slowing down the flow of transactions across the exchange. We're creating, blocks to that flow, and we want to remove blocks, not reinforce them. So we're looking for participants in the exchange having as much flow across that exchange as possible in order to do what an exchange should do, building that flow of transactions so that people can, get what they need without any impediments.
Okay, so if I'm a retail broker or agent, and I'm assuming by agent we mean independent agent. I'm assuming that like your exclusive agents probably can't use you guys.
It would depend, but yeah, for right now, intents and purposes, we say independent agents for sure.
Okay, so an independent agent or broker, what requirements do you have of me to give me access to the exchange?
Oh, great question. So like any other broker, E&O, proper licensing, broker agreement, we're hammering out some other stuff, as far as us, making sure that we can help your customers as best as possible. But that's really it. An appointment process with us is pretty easy. We have currently several active agents testing what we're doing, as well as we have about almost 200 brokerages signed up to use our platform when it goes live over the summer. So they're pretty excited as well. A couple folks on the Insurance Nerd Slack has sent us some transactions that we're working on from them as well. So we're really excited to onboard agents.
Okay, so basically, if I have any business and I don't have a market for it, bring it to the exchange. We'll find the market for it.
Absolutely.
Some commissions better than no commission.
We want to be frictionless, allow things to flow easily. We want to be liquid in the sense of being able to serve any kind of need, be able to match, any kind of product requirement that is there, be transparent in that, the different parties see what's going on. There's a good informational fidelity for information that flows across that, across the exchange. So carriers can see the deals, the retail brokers in the middle can see the deals, can see all that information. And of course we want it to be intelligent, in the sense that we want, no one to have to do an extra step that they didn't need to do by having the technology, move information. Let's say that someone on the underwriter side has a question. They get information, but they have some sort of follow-up question. They basically tell the AI assistant what that question is, and the AI assistant is responsible for then, going back down the chain, figuring out the answer to that question, and then telling the underwriter like, hey, that thing you needed to know about that, that new submission you got, here's that follow-up information.
Okay, so if I'm a carrier side guy, I've always worked on the carrier side. So if I'm a carrier, who would be a good match to join, and what does it look like for a carrier to join?
Marc, you want to you do our integration, so I can tell you the sales side. Marc will give you the integration side.
Yeah. So on the carrier side, there's a couple touch points. So first of which, we want to integrate as much as possible with APIs so that things are completely automated. And in some cases, the carriers have stood up APIs that serve, more on the small business, side, but maybe not on the bigger business side. So that means that we don't want only just the APIs, but we also want a channel to deliver those, bigger submissions. So that might mean a more traditional, submission gets sent, via generated documents, emails, et cetera. So that's not our preference, but that's what the state of the industry is. So we have APIs, we have traditional submissions, and in some cases we can simply take the rating information and so forth provided by the carrier side, bring that in internally within our internal rater, and then just completely do the quote generation and so forth within our platform. And that's what we're doing on the MGA side, for example. So that's even easier because we're just getting, rate tables and whatnot. We're not having to integrate with an API at all. And that is actually the best scenario for us because our technology does all that work and we don't have to worry about, integrations or having to, deal with, kind of different systems on the carrier side.
Okay, so Paul, business-wise, which type of carriers would you like to see in the exchange?
I mean, so right now we're currently doing approximately 12 different integrations with carriers. So we're working with, a lot of the big name carriers out there, some more intimately than others. So, really someone who is forward thinking, wants to lower their expense ratio, but right, who doesn't, right? So, looking for, getting access to more structured data. So like one differentiating factor between our platform and those of other potential exchange models is how we AI encode our questions. We have 18,000 dynamically tied supplemental underwriting questions that Marc can kind of speak to how we've structured that. So it helps them to really truly understand their underwriting process and their appetite. So for us, we're really well versed at doing various different types of integrations. The state of the carrier APIs, which I'll dovetail over to Marc here, is quite vast. So they're all a lot different. And that's just for me saying, and I'm not the one doing the integrations, but just anybody just looking to, increase their book, maybe create a new product. We're helping carriers with that as well. They want to put a new product in the marketplace. They want to really understand their marketing strategy. Being that we do offer a full stack model where we can utilize that retail brokerage facing entity, it really helps them to get a full touch of that insured from potentially Google ad click through transaction.
Okay. So I am curious how this feeds into what your vision of the future of the brokerage is, and especially in this. I think what led to a conversation today was your comment, Paul, that technology can save jobs with insurance. So right now, to give some context, it is April 10. We've had 3 weeks in a row of just record-breaking first-time unemployment filing. So something, I don't know, like 12 or 13 million people, just something absolutely ridiculous like that because of the coronavirus closures. In insurance, for now, we really haven't seen major downsizing. So insurance is kind of holding still for now. So how do you see technology saving jobs within insurance?
So, I mean, from my end, on the brokerage side, and Marc's
on the brokerage side.
On the technological side, of course. So I see it as just we need to reevaluate what an agency looks like in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have, be office reliant, I call it, right? So that involves a more agile tech stack, right? You're not going to be able to have systems that only work in Internet Explorer when you run a MacBook, right? Now, for someone like us in technology, that's fine, right? We put a parallel system on there and we can do it. So the brokerage channel, like what we help with for agents and agencies with the benefit of using our platform is, that marketing rep, there really should be more on the sales and service support role now, right? Because, marketing to me is appetite. Well, we have an AI appetite matrix that Marc designed, right? So you don't need to worry about what carrier can do the risk. You can worry about just putting it in the platform and then it will get to where it needs to go.
Okay. So now you're starting to speak my language. So when you talk about marketing and appetite, so basically we have people up until 2 weeks ago when this thing went crazy. We have people that are called marketing reps or territory managers. I did that job for 2 different carriers who are going out, visiting agencies just to help them understand the appetite. And these are well paid, generally 6 figures or close to 6 figures, 30 to 40% bonus, company car, usually former underwriters that are out there hitting the agencies just to help them understand appetite. And so basically like that job becomes outdated once we have perfect understanding of everybody's appetite via technology like you guys.
Correct. Marc could speak to the appetite piece as he built the engine that drives that, so he can give a little more color to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So within our AI-based system, we can understand what the products do, and we can understand what the appetite of the various carriers are. And the carriers can either provide that to us, either through like a spreadsheet, or we can look that up through APIs that they stand up, and a few of the carriers are doing that. Or we can learn that over time because we send certain submissions, and some of them they like and some of them they don't, right? So that's something that can be, self-reinforcing and learned in terms of what their appetite is. But given an understanding of that appetite, when we see submissions come in, we can match that submission with the appetite that wants it, and then direct the flow to that carrier. So that's really part of that matching process that the AI part of it is helping. So again, it is assisting so that what might be done now by a broker to say, who should I send this to? Now the AI assistant says, oh, here's the ones that have the highest demands, for that particular submission. So it's really that matching process that's being, facilitated. So I wouldn't say it's perfect information, but it's a lot better information than what is available now. And that allows the carriers to have a better chance of seeing the deals that they actually want, and to take some of the pressure off of the brokers, so that they can make sure that they have a good relationship with the insured, and have the focus be on that. And then once that good information is collected, as Paul I think mentioned earlier, that submission goes where it should go across the exchange.
Okay, so the agents, the brokerage of the future, focused on relationships and focused on how do I put it, on efficient finding of the right carrier for whatever relationship I happen to have, whether I have a direct relationship with that carrier or not, kind of thing.
So yeah, and even if you have a direct carrier relationship, if that carrier is on our platform, we map that appointment. So you get your full commission, you get your full override, you use this as one single entry point through your appointments. And if it doesn't fit, we'll get it out to another market for you. So it really helps you to understand, internally, right, where your markets are. Because, a lot of carriers have problems with comparative raters. Oh, we don't want to be a comparative rater. Well, you are. His name's Jimmy. He's the underwriting officer in the brokerage, and he goes on each different rater and uses them. And every time he gets a no from carrier A, he assumes, he's learning that maybe I don't want to send a deal through carrier A, because every time they say no, and when that perfect deal for carrier A gets delivered right to their door, Jimmy skips it because he's pissed, because every time he uses that rater, it never gives him a quote. So those types of human interactions are solvable with technology now. And it's not that even that marketing rep, job disappears, because I don't really think that, but it actually makes their job easier, because they're actually able to get the metrics surrounding what's going on in the agency. Because, they go, how many deals did you quote? How many did you bind? What's our hit ratio? Those types of things with technology, frankly, shouldn't matter, right? Like, hit ratio should be a thing that doesn't matter, right? You should be able to take 1,000 looks, and if you get one deal out of it, that's one transaction.
I have always wondered that one, as a former underwriter and as a former sales manager or territory manager or marketing rep for the carriers. I always wondered, every carrier I worked with always said that it's expensive to appoint a new agency. So we need them to have a certain flow, and we need them to keep a certain hit ratio, and if not, we're getting rid of that appointment. And it really, it's because of our own inefficiencies. That's why it's so expensive, right? There's technologically, with today's technology, there is no reason. You would think that it would make more sense. How do I put it? A fully modern carrier, and I don't know if there's any yet that are fully modern, but a carrier with fully modern technology would like to see everything you have. Right? Why not? Even if it causes a low loss ratio, I'd rather see it than not see it.
That'd be like, Amazon not letting you buy from Amazon unless you agreed to purchase $1,000 worth of products a month, right? It makes no sense. Like the cost to onboard a customer, quote unquote, in a modern e-commerce sense.
It should be. Yeah. It should be very close to zero.
Yeah, exactly.
It is
drive that to zero in the sense that we're just matching the right submission with the right appetite, and there's really just no overhead, right?
Okay, so if I am a carrier listening to this, and I'm on the sales side or the marketing side of a carrier, or the distribution side of a carrier, to put it more broadly, and and I'm looking for ways to lower my distribution cost. Talking with you guys is a good idea.
So, I mean, I'm going to give a real quick piece, and Marc's going to say why it's an amazing idea. But like, the difference is this: like, we sometimes have seen with some of the carriers we're working with, we're helping them identify their appetite in a more novel way. What I mean by that is, there's certain carriers we work with that, may work with another wholesale broker, and they're not getting structured data because it's on a handwritten supplemental and stuff like that. So with us, what they're actually seeing is, structured transactions. And also, we're not wasting their underwriters' time. If you don't want electric vehicles, and I have a product liability deal for electric vehicles, we have two options. You want to see the deals no matter what, even if we both know it's a declination, so you could see flow in the market. That is an operating strategy. Or two, we never want to see it. And we let you decide that. And that's a very novel way of doing it. And Marc could speak to more of why this value proposition works really well for the carriers, because frankly, he went from zero carrier experience to doing carrier calls with 30 plus corporate engineers at Fortune, 500 carriers, helping to, implement our technology. So go ahead, Marc, you can lay it down there.
Yeah. Part of the key of it is really that we're defining a new data standard for insurance. And this is, broadly defined kind of a knowledge graph. That's one of the buzzword terms around it. But essentially, it's a good data model that encompasses everything you'd want to say in the insurance world in terms of encoding underwriting material and so on. And it's encoded in a way that it can be understood by artificial intelligence, so that we can create very unique workflows or pathways for that data. So traditional appetite might be, these states and these class codes, and that's it, right? That's the appetite, right? But to Paul's point earlier, maybe you want electric vehicles, but only if the battery is less than whatever size batteries come in, right? So that appetite can be down at that level of that very tertiary underwriting question where you never want to see these deals, but you want to see the other deals, right? So our appetite could be down at that level. And that means that we're collecting very good information from the insured according to this model. We're seamlessly flowing it across the exchange so that the carrier ends up with perfect information. That information tracks with what's called provenance, or where that data came from. So did the insured provide it? Did the broker fill it in with them talking over the phone? Did it come from third-party data? Which data provider? When? Was it last year's data or this year's data? So all that information is provided at the carrier's doorstep, and they could look at that data or not, but they can use that data to make much better informed decisions. And to Paul's point earlier, they could decide, well, we don't necessarily like these deals, but if they're kind of close, send it to us anyway. And that allows them to gauge their appetite better in the future. And they can benchmark deals according to what their appetite is and analytics that are derived globally across all the activity from the exchange. So they can see, here's where I am, and here's where kind of everyone collectively, is at a very, big picture view, right? But they can start to make more informed decisions as to where they want to play in the market. So they not only get better distribution, they can make future decisions around that distribution based upon those analytics.
You guys have been in HarborAI. It's been what, a year and a half since you've opened?
Our wholesale brokerage has been open since December 2017. HarborAI Incorporated, which is our parent company, has been in operation since 2016. So a lot of our integrations, we've been working with carriers for a couple years actually with some of them. So we've been, kind of in stealth mode. We recently got into plug and play batch 8.
Right, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So we're really excited about that. Plug and play ecosystem's amazing. The partners, we're already collaborating with other startups in our batch and some others as well. So we're excited about that. So we've been in stealth mode for quite some time with the pilots we have with a couple carriers as well. So they're all going live and staged out in the near future. So we're excited to roll it out to other brokers as well.
So this reminds me, it's a good We always try to ask a couple questions for future insurtechs or for other insurtech hopefuls. And I like the way that you've done it. My understanding of the way that you've done it is a lot of insurtechs basically run for venture money as soon as possible. You did it kind of the other way around, right? Right. You bootstrapped it for as long as possible, basically, and up until now, where you joined Plug and Play, right?
Correct. I mean, well, we did, a more than $1 million family and friends round. We have clearly very good family and friends. Yeah. So we did, get some cash, but also too, there was a significant amount of capital put into the technology when Marc was working on it for the years before. So the real big difference with us than a lot of the others out there, it wasn't, we raised money on an idea to solve a problem and let's see if we can solve it. It's like, hey, we're solving the problem. We know we can solve far more problems if we have more capital behind us. And that's why, we're in the process of doing our first official Series A round now. So we're kind of a hybridized version of that, right? Because you have that retail brokerage I started in 2011, diversified risk, which is part of our offering, as well as the technology stack Marc has been delivering. So and developing. So it's a very unique combination that came together.
Well, I'm always a fan of any insurtech who has real insurance people in it, not just tech people. So the fact that you came from the brokerage side and realized there was a problem, it always gives me a better feeling than a tech person with a cool toy looking for a nail. So yeah, the fact that there's a real problem that you recognize that you dealt with as a broker, and that's what led you to start it. So what advice do you have for other young insurance brokers or young insurance professionals who want to create their own insurtech plays? What have you learned along the way?
I'll let Marc start because he could start with the tech part of insurtech, because that's the interesting thing about us too. I'm insure, he's tech. We've both created an overlap for one another where I know enough about our tech to be dangerous. He knows certainly enough about insurance to be dangerous. So I think that, to my point, that's the point. It's insure and tech, hence insurtech. But I think Marc can provide the right color for that one.
Yeah, I think on the just coming at it from my perspective, I'm kind of a proponent of the kind of lean startup concept of, solving a problem manually and then adding the tech to then streamline and do that more efficiently. So one of the problems with that approach in the insurance space is that if you're trying to serve the carriers, their decision cycle, at least historically, tends to be years time frame, and that's 5 or 6 startups start and fail within that time frame of just a sales cycle, right? So trying to match the ideas that come out of the more traditional tech startup world and then applying to the insurance space, there has been a bit of a mismatch historically, but there are some really great accelerators like Plug and Play in particular that are really working to solve that problem in terms of streamlining the intake of innovation at the carriers in particular, but insurance more broadly. So I think there are some better processes now than certainly there were a couple years ago. But I think there is a lot of a lot of people look at the carriers as okay, they're the big dogs. Let's try to create some products around them and serve them. But I think there's really a lot of opportunity, at other points in the process. Like some of the other folks within Plug and Play are really solving specific data problems using, machine learning and so forth to, how can we do a better claims process, or how can we do a better inspection process, or, things of that nature where there might be, wedges that can be found for these, very broad problems that are system wide, but are, not necessarily enterprise software that you're trying to sell to the carriers, So I think, look for innovation, potentially outside of the traditional carrier, model, to whether that's brokers or individual agents or whatnot, but look for it where you can find it. where you can provide a lot of value and potentially not be subject to, multi-year sales cycles.
Those sales cycles are painful. I sell staffing services to carriers, and yeah, it's a painfully long sales cycle.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this has been very, very, very interesting. By the way, Point and Place is are they Austin based, or where are they based out of?
So they're based in Silicon Valley. Obviously, with what's going on, plug and play, the fact that they flipped everything to fully digital, like effectively overnight, like that feat is unbelievable. The folks that put it together are all rock stars for being able to shift an in-person, like Marc and I should be in Silicon Valley right now. We were planning on going out there for the duration of the program. They were able to flip it. So basically everything's remote. The access they give you to carriers and capital and just connections is unreal. It is such an honor that we were even to be able to get selected to pitch, let alone get into the accelerator. So yeah, I mean, it's based in Silicon Valley. They do have offices all over the world, so they very well may have an Austin office. But yeah, so it's out there in Cali.
Yeah, and speaking of Paul, what he just mentioned about going digital quickly, I think getting back to one of the themes that we were talking about earlier in terms of what's going to happen in terms of jobs within the insurance industry. I think that there has been a lot of hesitancy to go digital in different parts of the insurance industry. There's a lot of old processes that have that's the way that we've done it before, that's the way we're going to do it now. So there's been a lot of hesitancy with sort of switching to a digital environment, but now everything is digital, right? As of 3 weeks ago, and I think what that is going to force a lot of mindsets to change. And with our platform, what we're trying to do is provide those digital tools to those individual independent agents. So what we're hoping is to really build a very strong agent network based around purely digital tools, so that they can be the best agent they can be. They can have those very personal relationships with the insured, making sure that their needs are met, and be very tightly tied, in a human sense to, those needs. Much better understand, their customers than, let's say a call center where everyone is just, dialing for dollars for, getting small business insurance policies, right? So instead of that, have better, digital tools where people can really know their customers a lot better, and have those tools really help everything that happens after that, in terms of feeding that information, streamlined into the carriers, allowing the carriers to, take the deals that they're interested in taking, and really have that infrastructure in place to transact and service those relationships, but really allow a growth on the agent side to for folks that might be laid off through what's ever going on now, or as the industry shifts into like automating certain processes. On the flip of that, build up the agent network and have much stronger agents that have much better relationships with their with the insured, the folks that they're supposed to be servicing. So I think there might be that shift going on now that might be spurred on by the kind of immediate digitalization of the industry as of 3 weeks ago. So I mean, if there's any kind of shift, it might be in that direction. At least that's one of the things that we're looking at assisting with.
On the carrier side, the last few weeks, as I call my clients in my day job, it looks like almost all of them were ready for the switch to being remote. They just didn't know they were ready. So they were trust in, and they're like, it worked, right? But I can only imagine on the brokerage side, there's a lot of small brokerages out there, small agencies out there, right? A lot of them are still like paper based, and I can only imagine what this is doing to them. I do think that one of the silver linings of this horrible crisis is we will learn how important this is, and we'll learn to be much better at it. And I think that a lot of I think there will be some agencies that will literally not renew the lease to their physical setup, thinking that they will later, next year kind of thing, and then they'll realize they don't need it anymore. And all of a sudden, we'll have a bunch of and it won't just happen in the agency world. I think there'll be a lot of small businesses that will become office-less. Because really,
what that means for commercial real estate, but
it is not good news for commercial real estate. That is absolutely correct. But I'm already seeing it. I have a friend who's an accountant, and she's been working for 4 or 5 years since college, and the first couple of years no work from home at all, then a little bit of work from home, and now not only is everybody working from home, the partners have already announced that they're not renewing the lease, that they'll wait until next year to get a new office. They don't know it, but there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. That's how a friend described it today. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Once your employees realize that they can be just as productive from home and happier and not have a commute, especially in big urban areas like where you guys have, there is no putting that genie back in the bottle. And you'll realize, as the business owner, you'll realize that expense is not getting you enough extra business to be justified in a lot of cases. So it's just not worth it. But I agree. It'll be a drastic shift when it comes to commercial real estate.
Yeah.
So not a market. I'd rather be an airline right now, because airlines will recover, in my opinion, or for the most part recover. But so anyway, that's pretty much all I've got. Historically, we always kind of end the podcast by asking both of you, how do you stay productive? What tools do you use that could be useful to our listeners? And it could be something complicated, it could be something as simple as pen and paper. Just how do you keep yourself productive, especially now that we're all working from home?
I mean, I'll go first. I mean, first, my brilliant partner over there built some amazing tech that helps us stay on top of everything. So that, what I'd say, is our broker tool. But just kind of simply, and this is a thing anybody can do, is just, take 15 minutes at some point in the day and just take a break. Don't check your phone. Don't check your email. If you need to turn it off, Slack. Shout out to Insurance Nerd Slack channel, very active. We're very, very active, and, met some awesome people, some connections. But yeah, I just think just unplug for a short period of time, just so you can kind of recenter yourself. I like to walk. I've walked, on average since this, quarantine in circles, I'm in the suburbs, about an average 25,000 steps a day. So I'm doing all my conference calls walking. So that to me is a big thing. But just take care of yourself, right? The tool, some sort of self-preservation, I suppose.
Right now, it's much needed for a lot of people. I have it really good, but so many people have kids at home who they're homeschooling, while at the same time they're dealing with trying to work from home, maybe an unemployed partner. There's a lot of stuff going on. So you are right. It's good to remember to put your oxygen mask on first and take care of yourself. Marc, being the techie in the group, how do you keep yourself productive?
Yeah, first, just looking at Paul's image on the screen there, this is the longest I've seen him sitting. So
it's very true. It's definitely very, very true.
His point, we're always on Slack. That just keeps us we still feel connected, right? So there's part of the the isolation is you're isolated, right? So tools like that really at least allow you to know that the little green light is lit on Slack, if you know that, where the other person is there. So there's that to kind of fall back on. But yeah, I personally like Paul, I do a lot of walking. I live kind of close to Prospect Park, which is one of the areas where Cuomo has said people were not socially distancing enough. But I go for a walk in the park every other day at least, probably, and just to kind of stretch the legs and it's funny because pretty much I never really see people I know, but because walking around the park is one of the few things that people can do. I end up seeing more people than I would normally, on the street, just because that's the one place where we can all walk around. But yeah, between just being able to unplug a bit and walk around a bit, that's what kind of keeps me sane.
I have this image in my head. So for any of the listeners, if you are in the New York City, New Jersey area, and you see a guy walking with both headphones on a conference call while wearing a pirate flag
HarborAI t-shirt.
Yeah, HarborAI t-shirt.
HarborAI t-shirt. So
I'm imagining a pirate flag homemade mask / cape. That's Paul. Come say hi. Ask him what insurance. So that's a great image in my head. Thank you for that. So thank you guys for recording today. We're actually recording this on Good Friday. It will probably go live on Monday after Easter. So thank you both for being here. Look forward to seeing what HarborAI and that's Harbor.AI for the listeners. If you want to check out the website, and I'll include on the show notes a link to the company and a link to both of your LinkedIns if people want to connect with you. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.